The employees inside ridiculed her while the manager ordered her to exit, and a cluster of wealthy socialites sneered at her openly. But suddenly the glass entrance swung wide as her husband entered, not just any ordinary person, but the billionaire proprietor of the complete Jade business empire, walking with authority in his steps and determination blazing in his gaze. A youthful lady possessing gentle features and subtle attractiveness descended from the crowded moving staircase into Manhattan's most opulent shopping center, a sparkling monument filled with high-end fashion stores, polished stone flooring, and customers who usually wandered the hallways carrying premium credit cards. Her identity was Nina, dressed in a modest pale blue shirt, somewhat worn denim pants, and casual shoes that had experienced considerable use. Without her inherent luminous quality, most individuals would have passed by her completely unaware of her presence. Nevertheless, Nina had arrived with clear intent. Grandfather Gray's 70th birthday celebration was drawing near, and she hoped to discover a significant gift for him. He had nurtured her as his own daughter, instilling values of compassion and modesty, constantly emphasizing that genuine feelings held greater importance than extravagant displays. Nina embraced this philosophy completely, and this conviction brought her to an upscale jade and precious stone shop, renowned for possessing the finest collection in the area. She entered the Jade Pavilion, breathing in the subtle fragrance of burning incense that filled the establishment. The location gleamed with transparent showcases, each containing ornate jade sculptures, wrist ornaments, neck jewelry, and decorative pendants. Mounted artwork and simple decorative elements contributed an atmosphere of elegance. Immediately, Nina sensed her displacement. Her clothing appeared inconsistent with the magnificent environment and the sales personnel who dressed in professional attire with golden-trimmed identification badges. Still, she recalled that Grandfather Gray treasured jade. Even a humble item would delight him, provided it originated from her affection. "Greetings. How may I assist you?" The welcome originated from a gentleman wearing a tailored waistcoat who hurried toward her, presenting a somewhat condescending grin. His identification badge displayed Carl Morgan, store manager. Nina blinked and reciprocated his smile as courteously as she could manage. "I'm searching for a jade wrist ornament, perhaps something shaped into devotional beads if available. My grandfather's celebration approaches." She attempted to maintain her voice cheerful and amicable, though she could detect his gaze scanning her attire, his eyebrows lifting in a subtle display of skepticism. "Devotional beads crafted from jade, you mention?" Carl responded, pressing his hands together as though in serious contemplation. "Certainly. Naturally, we possess something similar." He gestured for her to follow. "Please accompany me this direction." Nina trailed him beyond rows of exhibition cases that sparkled beneath intense white illumination. She glimpsed elaborate Buddha figurines, jade pendants designed as lotus blossoms, and complex carvings that surely commanded enormous prices. They halted at a glass container near the store's middle section. Carl retrieved a key ring, fumbling dramatically before finding the correct key. With theatrical flair, he opened the case and removed 3 distinct sets of jade prayer beads. "These are completely new," Carl announced with a smile. "Recently delivered from abroad, extremely premium. The workmanship is superb, ideal for a significant event. Notice the transparent quality of the jade and these delicate color shifts." He recited an inventory of remarkable-sounding characteristics, using terms like imperial grade and ice jade, expressions Nina couldn't completely comprehend. Then he delivered the shocking news. They cost merely $100,000 to $200,000 each. Nina felt her stomach drop. $1 to $200,000? She repeated in shock, her face flushing. She had understood Jade Pavilion carried expensive items, but she hadn't anticipated such a price category. Carl made a sympathetic clicking sound. "I understand. Perhaps something more within reach? Let's examine a different display." He cautiously replaced the prayer beads, then secured the case. His friendly manner diminished slightly. He guided her to another section at the store's edge, opening an alternative glass container. These items utilize somewhat less flawless jade, still attractive naturally. We typically price them between $70,000 to $80,000, but I can provide a special reduction. Let's say $60,000 if you select one immediately. $60,000 remained far beyond Nina's financial capability. Grandfather Gray had provided her money through the years, but she had used most for daily expenses and household assistance. Spending $60,000 on a present was completely unthinkable. She inhaled deeply, attempting to preserve her dignity. I apologize, that exceeds my budget as well. Do you carry anything perhaps below $15,000? At this, Carl's expression froze as though she had insulted him. His mouth corners twitched while any remaining politeness seemed to disappear. Below $15,000? He repeated, his tone sharp. Indeed, we maintain several inexpensive items, though they're scarcely appropriate for a significant birthday celebration, wouldn't you agree? If this is for your grandfather's 70th, you wouldn't wish to cause him embarrassment, correct? Nina's heart constricted. I don't believe sincerity causes shame, she replied gently, speaking more for self-reassurance than to debate with him. I can only spend huiti, had I have available. Carl produced a forced laugh resembling a sneer. I understand. Well, I suppose you understand your financial situation better than I do. The section you require is located here. He led her to a distant corner, where lighting was dimmer and merchandise was clearly less remarkable. Several jade bracelets lacking the rich shine of expensive inventory, along with pendants showing imperfect coloration. Still, Nina found them lovely in their modest way. She knelt to examine beads carved into small lotus designs, reminiscent of Grandfather Gray's preferences. While Nina studied the bracelet, Carl released a slow breath, tapping his foot impatiently. Then, with a sharp nod, he departed without maintaining polite pretenses. I have additional customers requiring attention, he declared over his shoulder. You may examine these items if you persist in purchasing something. Simply inform any staff member. His voice carried obvious disdain. Regardless, if nothing appeals to you, perhaps you should visit a more humble establishment. Nina pretended not to hear his insult, concentrating on the jade beads instead. $15,000 represented essentially her complete savings. But for Grandfather Gray, she would make the sacrifice. She traced her fingers across the lotus carving, appreciating the craftsmanship. As she stood there considering, a sudden piercing laugh interrupted the refined quiet of Jade Pavilion's interior. Ha! Some individuals truly overvalue themselves, don't they? They arrive here speaking grandly about sincerity or similar concepts, then cannot even purchase the smallest item. The voice belonged to a female, filled with a mocking quality that made Nina's back tense. She looked up to observe a remarkably attractive woman with colored blonde hair arranged in an elegant updo. The name on her banking card was likely something prestigious. Nina recognized her from certain socialite circles, Iris Lane. Iris wore a fitted designer gown highlighting her figure, and beside her stood another woman Nina had seen on magazine covers countless times, Diana White. Diana was an actress with an immaculate public reputation, rumored to have connections to substantial wealth. Nina had never conversed with her personally, but had encountered her briefly once or twice at entertainment gatherings. Following them were 3 additional women, all wearing costly clothing and displaying carefully arranged hair. They were probably minor actresses or aspiring socialites hoping to gain Diana's approval. The group focused on Nina with unconcealed scorn, resembling a pack of predators detecting weakness. Nina stepped back slightly, hoping they might ignore her if she maintained distance, but fortune didn't favor her. Iris approached with crossed arms, her gaze moving from Nina's worn shoes to her generic handbag. A contemptuous smile curved her lips. Well, well, if it isn't Nina. Strange seeing you in such a location. Did you lose your way heading to the second-hand shop? One of the accompanying women giggled behind her hand. Perhaps she's seeking free samples. Look at her clothing. Clearly she cannot afford genuine merchandise. Nina's cheeks burned, but she forced herself to remain composed. I'm simply browsing. My grandfather's celebration approaches, and I want to give him something significant. Iris shuddered dramatically. Look at that. How touching. Are you certain your grandfather desires a cheap trinket? In this store, even inexpensive items are costly, you understand. Maybe you should visit the bargain market downtown. You'd feel more at ease there. Diana White remained in the background, silent but with a haughty tilt to her chin. Nina recognized that posture. Diana was accustomed to being the center of attention in any space, used to having half the staff stumbling over themselves to satisfy her. This was precisely what began occurring. Carl, the manager, reappeared the moment he noticed Diana and Iris. He practically rushed over, bowing his head like a royal servant. Miss White, Miss Lane, what a delight. How can I assist you today? Our finest inventory is available to you. We recently received a new delivery of superior jade pieces I'd love to display for you. The change in Carl's behavior was almost ridiculous. Moments earlier, he had treated Nina like a bother, and now he radiated obsequious charm. Nina prepared herself for the predictable pattern. They would surround Diana, present the premium jade, and completely exclude Nina. Indeed, that's exactly what occurred. Carl snapped his fingers at two workers. You retrieve the new arrivals from storage, the finest ones. Hurry. Another employee received orders to bring a tray of premium tea. Carl turned to Diana with flourish. Miss White, please be seated in our exclusive lounge. Allow me to personally display our most exceptional pieces. Diana took one of the new jade bracelets from an employee, held it toward the light, and gave a cool nod. It's acceptable, she murmured, though perhaps somewhat ordinary. Iris laughed, indicating the intricate designs. Ordinary? You can see your reflection in this object. It's definitely not for commoners. A woman behind them, probably an aspiring actress, added, Everything about it suggests refinement, unlike those imitation jade fragments someone else might be purchasing. Nina attempted to ignore them, focusing on the modest jade beads in her hands. She could sense the employees glancing at her with sympathy or amusement, as if waiting for her to accept her position as a non-customer and depart. Even so, Nina remained. She was determined to purchase something for Grandfather Gray right here because she had heard Jade Pavilion possessed superior craftsmanship, and she wanted an item that would endure for generations. But the sneering only intensified. Iris moved away from Diana's side, drifting toward Nina again. Nina, she said, her voice artificially sweet, if you're experiencing financial difficulties, perhaps we can organize a small collection for you. I'm certain Miss White could spare some pocket change. The group giggled, enjoying their cruelty. Nina exhaled. That's unnecessary, she responded calmly. I have sufficient funds for a simpler bracelet. Carl, overhearing, made a point of rolling his eyes. He strode over with crossed arms. If you're planning to purchase from that discounted selection, you'd better act quickly. We're actually preparing to remove those items from display. We recently decided to discontinue the lower-grade product lines. He paused, giving Nina an opportunity to retreat in humiliation. I was going to have them all packed away tomorrow. Perhaps you can locate a better store within your budget. Your supervisor might not appreciate you driving customers away, Nina replied, somewhat more sharply than intended. She reminded herself that losing her composure wouldn't help, though she felt trapped. Carl snorted. Our supervisor? Don't worry. If our supervisor saw you lingering here, I'm confident he'd be the one directing you to leave. We serve VIP clients, people with sophistication. Iris released a cackle. That's correct. Jade Pavilion belongs to the King Corporation. You know the family is essentially royalty in this area, not a place for certain individuals. Nina's grip tightened on the jade beads in her hand, but she forced herself to remain courteous. She placed the beads on the counter, clearing her throat. Actually, could I examine this one more closely? The carving depicts a lotus design, correct? The question was directed at a young female employee who had been hovering behind Carl, looking uncomfortable. The employee's name tag read, Ella. She stepped closer, glancing nervously at Carl before responding. Yes, it's a lotus carving, very delicate. The price is only, well, we have it marked at $15,000, but I believe we can still provide a discount if... Carl whipped his head around, glaring at Ella. You can do what? Did I say you could offer discounts? She flinched, but he had already turned his back on her, facing Nina with barely controlled hostility. Let's not waste additional time. Do you want that item or not? If you cannot afford it, I'd recommend you leave. You're preventing my staff from serving genuine clients. As if on cue, a wave of employees gathered around Diana White, presenting trays of sparkling jade. Diana glanced over at Nina, her lips twisting with mild contempt. Nina recognized that expression. It communicated, I'm important and you're not. Iris and her companions snickered. Come on, let's abandon the pretender alone. She can search through the remaining scraps while we examine the real treasures. Nina's patience wore thin. She placed the bead bracelet on the counter and removed her wallet, carefully counting the appropriate number of bills along with her card. I'll purchase this one for $15,000, she stated, ignoring Carl's scoffing laugh. She had just enough in her checking account to cover it, plus whatever small discount might remain, but she sensed Carl would create any excuse to prevent the sale or humiliate her further. Carl snorted. Cash and a card? Are you certain the card won't be rejected? Let me guess. Your limit is probably a few hundred, or did you borrow that from someone? One of Iris's friends giggled. Maybe it's a stolen card. Oh, that could be interesting. Nina felt her cheeks grow hot, but she was about to respond when something she never expected happened. An older gentleman in an elegant suit entered the store, accompanied by two younger assistants. His neatly styled hair and polished leather shoes indicated authority, but he wasn't the type to attract attention through flashiness. He surveyed the store with sharp eyes, pausing when he saw Nina. Then he looked at Carl, and his expression hardened. Carl, for his part, seemed momentarily puzzled, as if he recognized the man but wasn't sure from where. He offered a hesitant smile. Good afternoon, sir. Are you here to see Miss White? She's right over there. The older man ignored him and walked directly to Nina. Madam, he said, his voice calm and respectful, I noticed you were about to make a purchase. May I offer assistance? Ella, the timid employee, blinked in surprise. She half-whispered to Carl, Isn't that Mr. Mason from corporate? Carl's expression became alarmed. It cannot be. Then he squinted and realized it was indeed Mr. Mason, an executive in the King Corporation's luxury goods division, someone with direct connections to the owners of Jade Pavilion. Carl's posture stiffened immediately, all condescension vanishing from his face. Nina, meanwhile, had no idea who Mr. Mason was. She only saw a composed older gentleman addressing her far more politely than anyone else had that day. Yes, I was going to buy this bracelet, but the manager here informed me they don't sell items within my budget. She tried to keep her tone neutral, though frustration simmered beneath her words. Mr. Mason turned to Carl, his brow furrowing. Is that accurate? He said, his voice carrying a quiet warning. Carl swallowed, quick to shake his head. No, we do sell them, but I was concerned she might not be satisfied with something from the lower end. Our store's reputation depends on excellence, so I tried to suggest a more suitable piece. A corner of Mr. Mason's mouth twitched, possibly in disgust. Is that your idea of quality customer service, driving her from the store? Because from my observation, it appeared more like you were harassing a paying customer. Carl's cheeks reddened. I misunderstood the situation, that's all. I would never refuse a legitimate buyer. Meanwhile, Iris and the other women lingered near the store center, uncertain what to do. Diana White raised an eyebrow, clearly unimpressed by Mr. Mason's interruption. She spoke up in a crisp voice. "Manager, if you're not too occupied, I'd like to see another piece here." Carl spun around, torn between appeasing Diana and dealing with Mr. Mason's glare. "Oh, certainly, Miss White. Right away!" He snapped at a random employee to attend to her, but the atmosphere had shifted dramatically. People stared at Mr. Mason, recognizing he outranked any store manager. Mr. Mason regarded Nina with a kind look. "We do have numerous items that might fit your price range. Let me handle this personally. If you still want that piece, or if you'd like to see something else, I'd be happy to assist you." Nina paused, her gaze dropping to the bracelet in her hand. She actually liked it. "If that's acceptable," she said softly, Well, I don't want to be in the way. I'm sure you have more important clients to serve." "You're as important a client as anyone else who enters these doors," Mr. Mason replied, his tone resolute. "Carl, process this sale for her immediately. No more nonsense." Carl gave a jerky nod, stepping behind the register. Nina offered him her card, her heart pounding slightly. She prayed it would go through. She was confident in her balance, but given how her luck was running, she feared some new humiliation. Sure enough, Carl took an eternity to run the transaction, typing with unnecessary slowness. But at last, the receipt printed. Nina exhaled in relief, grabbing the bag with the bracelet inside. She had accomplished it. Grandfather Gray's gift was hers. But before she could turn to leave, another mocking laugh pierced the air. It was Iris again. "Wow, you managed to purchase a cheap Jade piece. Congratulations! Now leave. People with real money need the staff's attention." Nina didn't want to escalate the situation, so she avoided looking at the group of scornful women. She simply murmured, "I'm finished here, so I'll be departing." She made it halfway to the door when the handle rattled from outside. In stepped a man, tall, broad-shouldered, with a quiet intensity that commanded the entire room's attention the moment he entered. Two imposing bodyguards flanked him, wearing discreet earpieces. The man wore a tailored charcoal suit with a crisp shirt open at the collar, exuding effortless power that seemed to absorb all the air in Jade Pavilion. Nina's heart fluttered. If you enjoyed the story, please hit that like button, leave a comment sharing your thoughts, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and please subscribe for more tales that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Thank you for visiting.